I really am interested to know if that shows up on the record. Because if not, freaking morons. Oh, okay. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cradle and Convert. I am Steve Green, Director of Holy Family Institute of Catholic Faith and Life, host of Reasonably Rational YouTube podcast, and I am the Cradle Catholic.
And I'm Becky Green. I'm the Director of the Green Homeschooling Institute? Yeah, that's it. And everything else in our lives. Sorry, I'm literally, my earring.
Oh, you put your earrings back in?
Well, I saw them sitting here. Forgot that when you put on the headset.
Earrings and headsets are not necessarily a great combination.
Just pierced me again. I just got like another piercing.
You have a double piercing now.
Right here in the jugular.
You were pierced for your own offenses.
Yeah. Okay, better.
Sweet. Hey, welcome to Cradle and Convert.
I kind of been referring to this as our spin-off of the Catholic Conversation because it's still the same hosts. It's still kind of the same format.
They've been some successful spin-offs. Hopefully we'll be one. We are a spin-off of the Catholic Conversation.
Yeah, it's just this
featuring the exact same two characters that were the Catholic Conversation.
Same antics, which I'm eager to chat with our guests today because
we're doing video now. You can see the notes from our other show. They're stacked on the top of the books.
It's organized.
Yep.
Yeah. So as far as the technology, I was trying to lead to the technology is we have a mixer. We have two mics. You have a laptop. We have a camera and the cords. And it's all working right now. But at any moment, it can give out. And yet we are becoming more and more reliant on this kind of technology. That is just an interesting relationship that we have with something that is supposed to, when it works and does what it's supposed to do, it's great. When it doesn't, though, it actually makes things so much worse because of the reliance on them.
That's accurate. Yes, I agree with that assessment of things.
There's like several movie scenes out there where someone has to cut a wire. There's always two, and they never know which one they have to do. Or like in The Abyss. Have you ever seen The Abyss?
Yes.
Yeah, and he's at the bottom of the abyss, and he's got to clip the wire, but he's using the light that you break. The fluorescent light.
Those little glow stick things.
The glow stick thing, so he can see it. But the colors, the color that he's supposed to, it doesn't look blue like it's supposed to. And I think, that's probably what it's like for you.
Yeah, I'm like, welcome to my world. I basically live in the abyss. I am the creature who lives in the abyss. I'm the alien who lives down. Only I can't like float up and be phosphorescent and glowy and. Yeah, that's actually a very accurate visual representation. So
it works out okay for Ed Harris in that movie, but I don't know if you were in that situation. I think it would be a sad.
Well, it's a little known fact that I had always intended professionally, like my chosen career path before seminary and then working for the church for all these decades. My chosen career path is I wanted to be a member of the Impossible Mission Force,
right,
and be the guy that cuts the wires.
Your resume looked great. Everything on paper was fine.
It's right up to the red green colorblind thing. That just like sorry, that would mean that the nuclear device would explode at the base of the glacier.
Yeah,
in the border of India and Pakistan, and would flood like this thing and cause a crop starvation, like a third of the world's population. So we just can't let you do that.
They didn't let you in.
I didn't know at the time that when they told me that was a spoiler alert for Mission Impossible 33, but it turned out to be. So that's, I recognize it right away. I'm like,
that's Fallout.
That should have been me, not Fallout. This Ving Rhames guy. Luther, who's so cool because he knows everything and can see the difference between red and green. Yeah, pick on the disabled kid, why don't you? I'm telling you. Anyway,
I don't even know what you're talking about anymore. I
didn't even know what I was talking about to begin with.
Luther. It's one of my favorite characters.
Luther's pretty. I got nothing against Luther and Benji. They're all right. Mission Impossible, if you haven't seen them, rush right out and watch all of them except number 2.
2 is
which
the
is
worst.
A turd in the punch bowl.
That was
awful. Yes. 2 is terrible.
No.
And number 7, where they kill
No,
off.
no, don't do that. Why would you? You can't do that. What if somebody hasn't seen it?
Those things have been out forever.
It doesn't matter. You can't do that to people. I don't even do that with The Sixth Sense. Like, just leave things alone. It is like
the Nate Bargatze.
What?
It's been 20 years. All right. So in case you haven't seen it, he's dead the whole time. That's kind of a big part of it. But we just thought it was a movie about marriage.
You can't do it.
Okay.
I will just say real quick. This is where you and I do not like having movies spoiled for me.
Oh, that's true.
I will be perpetually angry with you. This will be an experience, and that will taint our relationship. If you sit down and talk in a movie, you interrupt in a movie, and you spoil a movie or a book, any of those, before I've had a chance to get to it. You open your mouth and you do that, we're no longer friends.
Yeah. So, dear listener, if you've been with us for any amount of time, you have perhaps picked up on the fact that
my glasses, seriously, I can't see out of them. Like, I don't know if it's awful. I'm trying to keep going. No, I'll just
Ma Kettle's going to clean her spectacles over here while I continue. There are a number of ways that you can get on the naughty list with Becky. There just are. You've got options if you want to end up on the naughty list. And yeah, spoiling movies, plot twists, movies especially, but also books, that'll get you there. Yep.
I think it's rude. I think it's a lack of etiquette. Somebody hasn't been raised right, and even if it's one of our own kids that does it, those parents. Really...
We have a child. We have 6 of them, 5 of them here with us.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, who shall remain nameless, is perhaps the world's biggest walking spoiler alert.
He has a shirt, actually.
Oh, well, see, now you narrowed it down to the boys.
I think they knew.
Perhaps. Anyone who knows us knows. But we have a spoiler alert, which drives Becky crazy. And this anonymous child does have a T-shirt which just says spoiler alert.
I also don't care for. So when I'll just share. Why don't maybe this just be Pet Peeve Friday?
Should we just do the list?
There's so many we could spread out over the next few years, but I'll just start with this one. When I was a kid and a teenager and a young adult, and now I go to a movie, I'm there for the movie. I'm not there to socialize. I don't want to hear your commentary. Mm-hmm. I don't want your opinion. I don't want your questions.
What about witty remarks?
No,
I'm poking the bear. Becky, go boom. I'm waiting for. I can hear the.
That is so irritating. So if you also come to my house, love the teenagers. Love them so much, and I love having them come be in our home. I like to make them popcorn. A little bit stinky
sometimes when they're out in the heat dancing, and then they come back in the house.
They come back in the house, but
just saying.
I like to make them some popcorn. I go around, I hand it out with a little napkin. Like, I want to be that mom. I make them cookies sometimes. Yes, please come and watch movies. But now when I pull up a chair and I'm watching the movie with you, shut up. Don't speak through the movie. Don't talk. Don't ask questions.
Teenagers.
You're going to find out what happens. Let the plot unfold for you. And if you're scared or nervous or uncomfortable, or you don't find the same things that are funny that I know are funny, and you don't laugh, that's fine. That's fine. But you do not get to speak. You have to stay quiet, eat your popcorn. That's why I brought it to you, so you can keep your mouth busy.
It really is. She doesn't so much serve them popcorn as she serves them a crunchy butter and salt covered
watch the movie.
Speech stopper.
Be present here for this experience, but stop talking. And if you need to talk, I guess you can leave. I don't like that either. Don't leave during a movie and go and...
Well, now what am I supposed to do?
Sit and watch.
Am I supposed to talk or leave?
All right, so that's just a little pet peeve.
Okay. Maybe we could, every episode.
I'll just give you one.
You just give one pet peeve, and then we'll just end this entire show. This whole project ends on the episode where you have shared your final pet peeve. Since we're doing weekly episode, that should hold us for
into our 80s.
At least till Jesus comes back to take us all home.
All right.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we will talk to guests, though. Not desks. We'll talk to guests. The desk will just be here to hold the mixer.
Correct. And the guest might have a desk as well. Okay, good. So our guest today happens to be First time guest, looking forward to talking to him, Father Phillip Larrey. And Father Phillip, or Larry, well, I'm going to have to ask him how to pronounce it properly. But he's a professor of philosophy at Boston College. And he is an expert on artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, et cetera. We're going to chat with him about all that, do kind of a deep dive into it. He has been on that topic since way before any of us ever heard of or thought about AI. So he'll have a nice deep dive historical perspective for us, I think. And we'll also chat a bit about Pope Leo's Encyclical as well, Magnificat Humanitas, in which AI makes a number of appearances. So, dear listener, hang on. We're going to be right back with Father Phillip Larrey or Larrey right here on Cradle and Convert. So welcome to Cradle and Convert. I am Steve Green, the Cradle Catholic, with my lovely wife, Becky, the Convert. We're thrilled to be joined by Father Phillip Larrey. Father, I wanted to ask you, what's the correct way to pronounce your last name? Because it reads like Larry, but it also looks like there might be a more sophisticated pronunciation possible.
It's actually Larrey.
Okay.
Because it ends with EY. So, but I go by anything. I get all kinds of pronunciations. So
we will do our level best to accurately do Larrey. That makes sense. Okay, so good. So Father Phillip Larrey, I was a professor at Boston College, as a philosopher, and he is also an expert on AI and emerging technology and kind of the implications for morality and ethics, the human future, et cetera. So we're very much looking forward to talking to you today about all those topics generally, and also, of course, about Pope Leo's new encyclical, Magnificat Humanitas. But maybe since this is your first time on the show, you could begin by just kind of giving a little Cliff's Notes autobiography of Father Phillip Larrey, who you are and where you come from and how you got to be here talking to us. The pinnacle of your career, no doubt.
I've spent most of my adult life in Rome. I did all my formation at the Pontifical Gregorian University with the Jesuits, got my PhD and started teaching. And I at the Pontifical Lateran University, which is actually in the Vatican, it's extraterritorial of the Vatican. I was dean for 3 years before I came to Boston College. So my experience here in the States is actually quite new. I've only been here for about 2.5 years. It feels a little strange. Like I said, I grew up in Rome. I spent 32 years in Rome, and I was happy in Rome until I met the president of Boston College, and he said, "We want you to come and teach here." So I'm now in Boston. But for many years when I was in Rome, I taught a course called the Philosophy of Knowledge. Now, this is a mandatory course for all students who study philosophy and theology at the Pontifical universities, not just the Lateran, but in all the universities. And this course has to do with the nature of the human intellect, what is knowing, the history of the different theories of how we can describe what the human intellect is doing when it knows, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages, what are some of the problems with knowing, etc. How do we know that we know, which is called self-awareness. So back in the 1990s, being from Mountain View, California, I decided that I was going to look at artificial intelligence and see if that could shed light on what the human intellect is doing when it knows. And sure enough, from a theoretical point of view, I learned a lot about artificial intelligence when it wasn't very popular. It was going through what was called the winter of AI, and that was because it didn't live up to the hype. A lot of people had been talking in the 1970s and 1980s about AI and how that is going to transform the world, but the technology wasn't very good. It wasn't fast enough. It wasn't powerful enough. And so there was a huge disappointment around the subject of artificial intelligence. I kept at it from a theoretical point of view, and I said, oh, well, you know, what is a Turing machine, and who is John McCarthy, who coined the term artificial intelligence? What are, some of the people that are thinking about this? especially from a philosophical point of view, like Hilary Putnam, John Searle, and there are many, many others. And that's how I got involved in the area of artificial intelligence. In 2022, Sam Altman released ChatGPT 3.5. And that was when artificial intelligence became a household word. I had a running start on everybody. I'd been studying this for 30 years. And so it was everybody was trying to now understand what is going on with machine learning and with artificial intelligence and algorithms and things like that. And for me, it was pretty easy stuff in the sense that I had been studying and reading and writing about this for many, many years. So that's how I got involved in the area. And then I'm trying to keep up with it. And now every year I give a course on AI here at Boston College. And fortunately, I have a lot of very good students to help me keep up on what's going on. It's very, very difficult. We're moving at an incredibly fast pace. It's a very complex area now. There are a lot more players than there were when back in the 90s, when I first started learning and studying this. So it's a challenge. It really is a challenge. Some people ask me, what is a Catholic priest doing talking about artificial intelligence? And the answer is because I teach a course on the human intellect. And so we know what the human being is doing when it knows, although there are many, many different theories from Plato all the way up until today. Many, many different theories about what knowledge is. But what is a machine doing? When John McCarthy coined the word in 1956 in Dartmouth in New Hampshire, many people that were at that conference, like Marvin Minsky and others, criticized him for using that term because they said a machine isn't thinking, a machine isn't intelligent. And he said, well, this is the best word I can come up with. And the word stuck. I disagree with the word too. I don't think what a machine is doing is actually intelligent behavior. But what the AI models are doing now is very impressive. And they what I call simulate or mimic what we understand as intelligence. And so I think the word is here to stay. We're going to face this difficulty of vocabulary in the near future with words like consciousness, with words like reasoning, thinking, and so it's a slippery slope. Whereas perhaps if we had thought about this back in the 1950s, we would be on a different level. So I've written a lot about this, and so there's a lot to say. But I'm also eager to hear what your questions are.
Well, I think you mentioned in the 1990s there was a plateau, or maybe a hype was, brought down a little bit. I think it's because of the Terminator movies, honestly. I mean, let's think back to that era, and we were coming on the heels of 2001 Space Odyssey. You got the computer taking over. So there was some natural inherent concern and sort of a suspicion of artificial intelligence, and I jest a little bit, but honestly, that kind of jumps into a question I have regarding even just the term. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't know that it goes all the way back to the 50s, the whole concept of artificial intelligence. And we're kind of used to it now a little bit, in the sense that when you say AI, we all have at least a somewhat understanding of this idea that we have computer technology that's able to operate in a way it's not intelligent, but it's quote unquote learning, and it's taking input and programming and then spits out information at a more efficient rate maybe than just the human being can do. But even that is already, just for me, I have an icky taste in my mouth even saying something like that, because my question for you is, when we're naming something back in the 50s, and you said if it had been thought through, maybe there would have been a different term, or maybe there would have been a different understanding or taken it a different direction. Is that one of the challenges we face when it comes to this technology? Because even though this has been around for a while, for myself, as I look at what we're seeing now, it feels like a fire hose. It feels like it's been very quick. It feels like that we have, in the last just few years, suddenly been inundated, and now I can't even open up a Microsoft Word document without an AI bot popping on to offer its assistance that I don't actually want. So, kind of talk a little bit about that relationship between the human intellect thinking through and becoming equipped with the ability to create this kind of computer technology that we have, and the technology itself maybe getting away from us, and not understanding fully the implications. And you, of course, study this as a priest and been teaching on it. You have the full understanding of our Catholic perspective on the human being and the dignity of the human being, and the intellect and what that is. Can you kind of talk about that relationship a little bit, on especially where we're at now, where AI is becoming so prevalent?
Artificial intelligence is quite awkward right now in terms of relating to human intelligence. It takes a certain amount of effort. And Elon Musk just came out the other day with a handheld device, which you may have read that in the news. He's trying to simplify the interface between artificial intelligence and human knowledge. But it's awkward. It's artificial intelligence. It's not natural for us, the way that you and I speak and we understand each other. So at the beginning, it was even more awkward, because what you had to do was align yourself to the nature of the machine. And I don't know if you remember the Palm device back in the 1990s. So there were very awkward devices that were being used, and you had to learn how to use them, and you had to kind of teach yourself how this can be helpful to your intellect. As time goes on, this is going to become easier and easier. And what we call the interface is going to become more and more natural, until we get what Elon Musk calls a brain-computer interface, or a neural link, where you have a complete homogeneity between the artificial intelligence and the natural intelligence. And Ray Kurzweil, the famous futurist, calls this the singularity. The singularity is the moment in which artificial intelligence weds, or is combined seamlessly with biological intelligence. And he originally said that was to be about 2045. In his new book, he says that'll be about 2035. And so that's going to be the moment in which what you describe as kind of a scary scenario is going to be even scarier. You also mentioned something which is vitally important, and that is to maintain control over the AI. We can't let the AI models get away from us. Right now, the models are very immature. They're very primitive. If you talk to anybody, they'll tell you that we're at the beginning of this, and it's going to take time. But every day they're getting more and more sophisticated, and they're doing things that we would never have suspected. Maybe just a few months ago. I think within the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to see some improvements which make artificial intelligence completely one with us, in the sense very, very easy to use and very intuitive, whereas now they're not. when you use something on your computer and you get an AI, sometimes it's just a bother. Siri, for example, to just name one, I could name a bunch, but I have an iPhone and I have Siri on it. I never use it because it's not very good, but it's getting better every day. You can't really ask Siri anything. You have to know how to ask it things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is kind of counterintuitive. It should be natural, and this is called natural language processing, which a lot of the AI companies are looking at, especially Google, for example. They were pioneers with Demis Hassabis doing natural language processing. That's going to be something spectacular where it's seamless. So it's not like, so you mentioned when you're writing a Word document, something pops up and you're like, no, I feel the same way. It's a bother. It's not, it doesn't work right. It doesn't help me. And so I don't want to have anything to do with it. We're going to get to a point where it's going to be actually very, very useful without any effort on our part. And that's when it's going to become, I think that's when it's really going to take off. But we have to keep in mind to maintain control over the AI so that they do what we want them to do it and not the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're talking to Father Phillip Larrey. He's a professor at Boston College, philosopher, and an expert on artificial intelligence and emerging technologies. Okay, gosh, Father, there are just a million directions I want to go here. So a couple things I guess I'd like your feedback on, and specifically from the perspective of someone who has been thinking about this long before it was on the radar of the common man and the everyday citizen. So you've seen the run up to where we are now and the way that AI is being employed and where it's headed. The ethical concerns are obviously a huge piece of this, especially for us as Catholics. I mean, that's something that we always have grafted onto any consideration of a new technology or a new power or capacity. In terms of the ethical concerns, have you seen those change? Have they shifted from the early days of AI, where this was kind of a conversation and a way off in the future, perhaps someday possibility, versus now, where it's not only upon us, but is rapidly expanding, increasing in its capacity and its fluidity, et cetera? Has there been a shift in the kind of the ethical concerns? And then from your perspective, taking into account both like what you've been studying and then looking at the contemporary situation vis-a-vis AI and emerging technology, what do you think, if someone like me came to you and said, okay, Father, you know a lot more about this stuff than I do, kind of bird dog for me what I should be concerned about? Point out to me, because the reason I ask it that way, kind of with the bird dog analogy, is I suspect there are real ethical concerns that are largely invisible to a common everyday user like me. I might have some of the kind of the big ones in my head, but I suspect there's more subtlety and nuance that it takes a kind of a longer view to suss out. So kind of that's a rambling question with a bunch of sub questions, and sorry about that, but do with it what you can, Father.
Type it into your AI bot, see if you can decipher what he just asked.
So in terms of the first question about the shift of ethics, yes, but I would also say it depends on who you speak with. Okay. Most of the technicians in Silicon Valley really don't care about the ethical considerations. Mm-hmm. They're paid to code, and actually they're losing their jobs because AI codes better than human beings do. So the technicians are always trying to stay one step ahead of the AI, being creative, being avant-garde, trying new things, etc., which an AI won't do. The Pontifical Academy of Life a few years ago published a document called the Rome Call, and that was drafted by Archbishop Paglia and Father Paolo Benanti, and Pope Leo quotes that a few times in his encyclical Magnifica Humanitas. And they list 6 different issues, and I don't want to get into it because it gets quite specific, but they list 6 different issues that have to do with the ethical nature of the use of AI. The European Commission passed a law called AI Act, and they have a large chapter on the ethical use of AI. Again, Pope Leo frames the ethical use of AI in terms of the social doctrine of the church. By the way, we want to talk about that, I think, in a minute. But the document by Pope Leo is not really about AI.
Yeah.
It's about the social doctrine of the church.
Yeah.
And I must have given about 20 interviews the week that it came out, which was May 25th. And I was surprised by the number of people who had never read the document. And finally, one of them admitted, and the Vatican sent me an advance copy because they knew that there was going to be this deluge of interest in the document. And so I stayed up at night. I read the thing. It's not an easy read unless you're kind of experienced with the way Vatican documents are written, which of course I am, and the theology behind it. For example, the whole second chapter goes through the history of the social doctrine of the church from Leo the 13th up until today. And I had to study that at the seminary. And I remember telling one of my confreres, it's chapter 2 is beautiful. I said, I wish I would have had chapter 2 when I was studying this stuff, because it would have made my life a lot easier. It goes through every major document, Popolo Progressio, Rerum Novarum is the first one, but it goes through all of them and it gives you a synthesis according to the mindset of Pope Leo the 13th, gives you a synthesis of what the document is trying to say. So chapters 3 and 4 are specifically about AI, but they're really not about AI. They're about AI in terms of the image that the social doctrine of the church has of the human being and the dignity of the human being. Pope Leo he's not an AI specialist. He's not a technologist. He's not writing about AI from a technological point of view, although I could give you other documents that he has written and messages that he's written. Specifically on the 24th of January, 2026, his message for the World Day of Social Communications is a very technical document, and it's very, very well done. And that is really specifically about AI. The Encyclical is about the social doctrine of the church. And then chapter 5 is about war. It's about conflict. It really has nothing to do with AI. And there are two things that, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, but there are two specific instances where he mentions AI. One is lethal autonomous weapons. Mm-hmm. He's talking about drones, which we're using in the war in the Ukraine and also in the Gaza Strip. And he talks about massive surveillance of people in the Western countries, which of course he doesn't want to see. But I don't want to get into the politics, but that was just in the news about a month ago, with the debate between the Pentagon and Dario Amodei, who is the co-founder of Anthropic. So it's really not about AI. I mean, it's about the just war theory. It's about what justifies violent conflict. It's about how that harms human dignity. It's his call for peace. And that kind of got him not in trouble, but there was a debate when I was in Rome. There was a debate between him and Donald Trump. Well, again, I was told not to get into politics, but I mean, this is common knowledge. It was Trump, criticized the Pope, and then the Pope came back and criticized him. And then finally, Trump sent Marco Rubio to meet with Pope Leo. But so the whole point was about peace. And Pope Leo, I remember he's saying, I'm not a politician. I'm not talking about specific instances. I just want there to be peace. And I think that's the message of the 5th chapter also. So if you look at the encyclical, it's really doesn't talk much about AI. And so when people tell me, oh, it's the AI encyclical, it really isn't. Anyway, enough said on that. In terms of the shift, I would say, yes, there is much more interest now than there was before about the ethical considerations. things like transparency, things like privacy, things like sustainability, things like job loss, and we could go on and on and on. And the Pope talks about that in the Encyclical as well. So those would be the ethical concerns that are on the horizon. Now, if you are not familiar with the technology and you're kind of wondering, well, what are some of the ethical concerns? I guess it depends on, again, who you speak with. From an educational point of view, we're grappling with, and I think every institute of higher education is grappling with this issue. Should we allow our students to use AI? And Pope Leo says very clearly, we can't say no to the technology. He says this in the first part of the encyclical. We can't say no to the technology, but we have to use it responsibly. We have to use it responsibly. So I would say one of the issues as Catholics would be, am I using AI responsibly, or am I using it to substitute what I should be doing? Mm-hmm. The other thing I wanted to mention in terms of Catholic understanding of AI is Magisterium AI, which is an AI app created by Matthew Sanders, a good friend of mine. And you may have seen it. You may have used it. A lot of Catholics are using it. It's the number one app for Catholic information, because Matthew trained the AI on official documents of the church. So you know that you're getting the real thing. But if you go to ChatGPT and you say, what was the controversy between Pope Urban and Galileo back in the 17th century? Well, who knows what they're going to say? Right. This is a tremendously complex issue. And there are many, many different perspectives you can take on this. Most people say this was the beginning of the scientific method by Galileo and the scientific revolution that the church denied. And some people will even tell you, I've even seen AIs tell me that the Pope killed Galileo, which is not true. Yes, the Pope did arrest Galileo. There was a trial, and Galileo had to rescind from his views on heliocentrism. Again, I don't want to get too much into the detail, but that's not necessarily the Catholic perspective on this. Mm-hmm. But if you go to Magisterium AI, they're going to give you the Catholic perspective using official documents of the Catholic Church. So that would be something that I would suggest to everybody. When you have a question about the church, when you have a question about doctrine, about morals, about the history of the church, use Magisterium AI. It's very good. It magisterium.ai or magisterium.com. It's easy to find on the website. It's very intuitive. It's just like ChatGPT. You prompt it. You say, who was Pope in 522? For example, and it will tell you, and it will give you the right answer. So there are many other issues. For example, lying and cheating using AI. Some people use AI and they make up stuff. Pornography has been an issue, and it will become even more so in the future. And AI is just going to facilitate that. However, if I can just insert a parentheses, Sam Altman, the one who gave us ChatGPT, about 6 months ago came out with the phrase, I'm going to make ChatGPT adult for adults. Okay. And so we all knew what that meant. Mm-hmm. He was going to make it easy for adults to find porn with ChatGPT. A month later, he eliminated that program. And I was like, yes. And I'm not sure if he did it for ethical concerns. I don't think he did, but maybe he did. I've known Sam for about 5 years now. He participated in an event that we hosted in the Vatican on AI. But I was happy. I was like, oh, we're finally learning. We're finally learning. And someone like Mark Zuckerberg, for example, who's being sued by many parents of children who have committed suicide or who use Instagram or other Facebook AI programs for evil, for bad things, they're suing him for that. So little by little, I think that they're going to learn that a more ethical use of AI is actually better for your company. I think Mark has currently 1,400 lawsuits against him. Most of them are from the state general attorneys. The federal government cannot intervene because Facebook is global. So it really doesn't rely on, the federal government really has no jurisdiction over Meta is Instagram, WhatsApp, and Facebook together. But the individual states do, because the people in those states that use the programs are the ones that ask the state governments to sue Meta. And so that's what most of the lawsuits are about. So so the more the people, I think, backlash against an improper use of an AI, the better we're going to see, and people are going to change. Well, the AI platforms are going to change.
So that's what I want to drill into, though. Well, you just made a statement about the inherent ethics, and you at one point you said we're finally learning, and that to me equates to a very human experience of getting back to the intellect and asking the question, what is real knowledge? And there's so many directions to go. All you have to do is watch one of those man on the street interviews during spring break, where these bumbling idiots are asked who was the first president of the United States, and they don't know, the Revolutionary War, who the two parties were. And I probably shouldn't call them bumbling idiots in front of a priest. I'm sorry, you can't do confession.
It's a lack of charity, perhaps.
That is a lack of charity. It's well, I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous what some of the questions are. And there's just a complete ignorance. And they are adults, so they have clearly gone through the school system. And I'll just say this, we homeschool, and there's a very particular reason, many particular reasons why. I'm sorry, I'm getting on my soapbox. But the frustration over even asking the question, what is real knowledge, and how far we've come from just in academia, in the school system, in the general idea of how human beings interact with technology introduced into the equation, that we don't have real incarnational experience of other human beings and knowing what our mission and purpose is, and then the loss of God and all of it. All of these like play into how do human beings even think anymore? And how do they understand, and how do they gain knowledge? And when we talk about the ethics of something, when we have become unhooked from kind of that foundational understanding, and in the way that we think has actually changed over the years, the actual way that the neurons interact because of screen usage and because of a disconnect from some of the foundational principles of who the human being is and who God is and who we are in relationship to, and the classics, and just and such and so on. Circling back then to the idea of having this technology, this artificial intelligence, where you're going to ask a question and then have a response, or this coming age now where we can be integrated in almost in this transhumanist movement, and technology and the human brain are interfacing. If we have, as a culture, lost sight of what actual human knowledge is, and real human learning and real human thriving, what are the implications of that as this technology advances at the rapid rate that it is, and we're integrating in with it like that? Just I see issues. I see problems. And so I'd just like you to speak to that. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Well, you just mentioned about 25 huge topics that would require a couple of weeks each one. And I invite you to come to my class, because we talk about this stuff all the time. And the students love it, because this is on everybody's mind. Mm-hmm. I also will mention that if you want to have a real laugh, go to the YouTube channel of Jay Leno, where he interviews people about what you just said. And he asks them very, very simple questions. And he can't even believe the answers. And, and these are all people who have gone through the school system, and
Yes,
they supposedly know this. Now, after I gave a talk to young students at the Loyola in Los Angeles a couple of months ago, there must have been about 300 in the auditorium, and many of them came up to me, and I was exhausted, and they came up to me, and all they wanted to do was ask questions and get information. And finally, after about an hour, I said, "Look, I got to go to dinner. I'm tired, etc." One of the students followed me all the way to the dining room and said, "Father," he was almost crying. He said, "Put yourself in my position. I'm a young student. My future is all in front of me. What would you suggest that I do?" And my answer was, and I think I'll try to answer your 25 topics in this one short answer. Identify what makes us specifically human and concentrate on that, and leave everything else aside. Because that will be done by AIs in the future. I'm talking about maybe 10, 20 years down the line. And he said, "Oh, thanks, Father." And I think, and that's what I tell my students also. What makes us specifically human? What constitute, and Pope Leo says this also twice in the Encyclical, what constitutes the human being in terms of its nature that an AI could never do or could never even simulate? That is, I think that's something that we have to keep in mind. The educational system is going to have to change. I'm on the steering committee for AI at Boston College, and I tell you, we have a bunch of meetings, but we still haven't come up with any conclusion. I don't know if you read, we just got a large donation to start an AI institute at Boston College. And so that's exciting. Many other Jesuit institutions already have one. The best known, I think, is Santa Clara, which is the Marcula Center. And that's run by Brian Greene, who's a dear friend and who's also very close to the Vatican. But you have the Hank Center in Loyola in Chicago. You have the Center for Innovation and Technology at Seattle University, and the list goes on and on. I'm just talking about the Jesuit centers. Fordham University is now coming up with a Jesuit AI. I thought that was kind of unique. And we're going to a conference there in the fall. Jesuit AI. I wonder I think they're calling it Ignatian AI.
Okay.
And I'm like, what does that mean? Because St. Ignatius didn't have any idea what AI was. So anyway, it's like the Jesuit institutions kind of coming together and seeing if we can help each other and combined efforts. But there's MIT did a study, and I'll finish with this note. MIT did a study proving that the more students use AI, the less intelligent they become. They no longer are able, they don't think critically as much as they used to. Their attention span is about 5 minutes now. I mean, imagine giving a homily, and I have to realize that I have, people are going to listen to me for about 5 minutes, and then I have to change or do something because their attention span is shrinking. And every year it gets less and less and less. So their capacity to reflect, their capacity to understand a text, for example, it's all becoming more and more difficult because of what you call screen time or the use of AI. And so what I try to tell my students is, don't farm out to an AI what you need to do yourself, because you're going to just shoot yourself in the foot. And I give the example of one of my students who just graduated is in a room with a CEO and an AI, and the CEO is thinking of hiring the student. And usually students who graduate from Boston College find jobs almost immediately. That's no longer true. That's no longer true. It used to be 96% of our students found a job within 2 months after graduating. That is no longer true. It's now about 2 years. And the CEO says, okay, to the student, you just graduated from Boston College. You have a degree. Fine. What do you bring to the table that the AI doesn't? And if the student has continually used AI in his or her formation and has relied only on AI, they're not going to know the answer to that, and they're not going to get hired. And many of my students say, yeah, I see that. That's true. I accept that. So I don't ban the use of AI. I'm not against AI, but I don't think it can substitute what the students need to do. And I think that's kind of the mentality that we're taking here, but it really depends on the department. For example, the science department demands the students use AI. The English department bans AI because they'll just write essays.
Right.
You know, they'll write their essays. The philosophy department, we don't, you know, we're kind of indifferent because most of our exams are oral. Okay, all of my exams are oral. So when the student sits down, if the student has been doing assignments using AI, I'm going to know right there. They either know how to look at the text or they don't. So most of the philosophy professors I know, it's not an issue. They're like, oh, if they want to use AI, go ahead. But nothing can substitute the hard learning effort it takes to understand a text, and that's why classes are so important. But anyway, I getting off the subject. There's no question that the more you use AI, the dumber you get. And again, I'm exaggerating a little bit because I know a lot of my students who use AI in a very intelligent way, and they're very smart. In fact, those are the ones that are helping me keep up with the. Really, it's day to day now. It's no longer year to year. It's day to day. They're helping me keep up on the evolution of this technology and how it can be used for good.
There's a thread that kind of runs through all of that. This is a question that I've I don't know if debated is the right word, dialogue back and forth with some friends of mine and colleagues. The question of whether, especially with the advent of AI, but you know, you alluded to earlier, some of the intentions that have already been made plain in public in terms of where they want it to head. The singularity that Kurzweil talks about, Elon Musk's Neuralink. You know, this hybridization of human beings and machines. Have we crossed a Rubicon with AI where we now have a technology that cannot accurately be described as neutral in itself, whose ethical questions are not just going to be solely based on to what use and with what intention are we putting this technology, but instead, can the case be made that we have now created a technology which is in some sense and to some extent dehumanizing just by its very nature? In other words, you may have to use it because this is just how society runs now. I mean, you know, we've been mass migrated into all kinds of technological use because the bridge to the way it used to be has been burned behind us. You can no longer use a flip phone because they don't support the, you know, I'm on and on it goes. So I get it. It's here to stay. We're going to have to reckon with it, use it. But I'd like your thoughts on that question. Is this a technology which, because by its very nature, it seeks to replicate, simulate, and to some extent replace genuine human thought, research, et cetera, where it is just by its nature dehumanizing? And so we're trying to actually kind of manage the extent to which it dehumanizes us and our necessary interfaces with it.
On one level, the technology is neutral. It depends on how you use it. You can use it to create a bomb. You can use it to kill Ukrainian soldiers in Kiev, or you can use it to win a Nobel Prize like Demis Hassabis did with AlphaFold, which was his AI that taught biologists how proteins fold. And he actually is using that in order to look at vaccines, at antibiotics, and even a cure for cancer. Now, on another level, and Pope Leo mentions this in the encyclical, the technology is not neutral. It's biased. It's biased because of the people who create it, who distribute it, and who gain from it, right? And so, and I think that the last question, who they gain from it, that is what really makes the technology no longer neutral.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the technology necessarily dehumanizes us. I think it depends on how we use it. If we use it to substitute our humanity, yes, it dehumanizes us. If we use it to enhance our humanity, which is really the message of Pope Leo in the encyclical, how can AI enhance human flourishing? He even uses that word, human flourishing. How can AI enhance human beings? Then it's not dehumanizing at all. If it's substituting human beings, for example, the famous platforms that enter into emotional and romantic relationships with people,
right?
That's dehumanizing, because what you're doing is you're replacing a human, a specifically human sentiment or feeling or reality with an AI, and it's really false, because there is no human being at the other end. It's just an algorithm, but it simulates falling in love with you, simulates being your friend, it simulates all kinds of other things. And the Pope mentions that also. He says that is dehumanizing. So again, all these things have to be nuanced. It's not black and white. I think it really depends on how you use the technology. But yes, it is not neutral. That's why Pope Leo says in that famous number of the encyclical, I don't have it right now, where he says we need to disarm AI. Remember that, where he talks, he says we need to disarm AI, and that, I think that's what he's referring to. Make sure that the AIs don't get the best of us. They don't run our lives. They don't tell us what to do. They can give us help. For example, if you're on, in the middle of you don't know where, and you look at Google Maps and you say, where's the next pizza place? That's helpful. It will tell you, and that's very helpful. I don't particularly like pizza, but let's say you do. So that's a way in which we have to start learning how to use it. But it can. I think eventually it will be used for good.
I hope so. I don't know that I tend to be more pessimistic, so I guess that's that's what I don't have going for me in this equation. How it reminds me though of a conversation. I had a fantastic conversation with one of the teens in our community. We were on a trip actually for a robotics competition, and he was talking about the use of AI in kind of helping him with his lab reports. And like you mentioned, even just at Boston College, where the different departments have sort of a different relationship with AI because of the types of things that it can be useful for and helpful for, and then the types of things that it could be problematic. And so I was, as a writing teacher, I was, imparting on him my concerns about the plagiarism, about the use of the bots and in general to just do writing, and that there's something sterile, there's something lost in it. And then we were in agreement in our assessment that as AI is utilized to try to produce art, the creative spirit that's sort of inherent in the human being, as part of our uniqueness and our the fact that we're unrepeatable, that there's this expression of that humanness that we see manifest through great works of art. And it got us to talking about just thinking about Shakespeare is always better when you're watching it on stage versus having to read the plays and having that experience of it being portrayed up in front of you, and then yourself maybe even acting it out. If I were to watch AI bots at some point in the future, where they look human, they have the articulation down of those words, but to go and pay to see a stage play of bots that are attempting to reflect that on stage, there would be truly something lost there, that it could not possibly replicate just the fact that it's a human being. Even just this experience of this conversation with you, it would be so much better if you were sitting in the room with us. There's not room because there's such a mess and you don't want to see around the computer.
I see a lot of books behind you there.
Yeah, that's right. So there's something lost, even though this opportunity exists. And so I would say that's a positive, that we have this computer technology that's giving us this ability to have a conversation and to do so through the technology and then share it with others. That's a positive. But even in that positive, there's a loss of what is truly human in our experience of having this dialogue, having this experience of having you in person here. So all that to say, that's kind of like where my concern is how far could this potentially go? And will we always as human beings know to draw that line where you had said you tell your students, don't let AI be a part of what you could do on your own. What is human, what is meant to be human. But is there a chance that people don't even necessarily know that anymore? They won't even be able to draw that line.
It depends. The Matrix is a movie which describes exactly what you're talking about. How are we going to tell the difference between what is real and what is not real? That is going to be a big question. But remember, Plato talked about this in the Republic with the allegory of the cave.
Right.
So these are not new ideas. That's what I try to tell the people in Silicon Valley. I say, you guys aren't bringing up new stuff. We've been talking about this for 2,500 years. At the same time, I will mention that in France, they have given copyrights to AI products, especially music and images, paintings. So it's going to be more and more difficult to tell the difference. Pope Leo says in a message to a group of us that were in Rome in in the summer of 2025, that the machine doesn't have a soul. The machine doesn't have a soul. And we know that great music and great art is an expression of our souls. And therefore, I think there's always going to be a difference. Let me give you another example. Your example of robots on a stage. No one's going to want to watch that. I mean, boring. I mean, it's just not going to happen. I can give you another example. Sports.
Yeah.
We don't want to see bots play baseball,
right?
Because every pitch will be a home run,
right?
Because the bot will calculate the speed and the position of the ball, and it will move the bat in order. And that's boring. We want to. The great thing about sports is the human side,
right?
Humans here now we have the World Cup, right? I'm getting hooked on watching it just to see these guys give everything they have on the pitch, on the playing field. I don't want to see a bunch of robots running around kicking a ball. Right. That doesn't make any sense. What you want to see is the human struggle, the competition, the agony, etc. Those are and I think that will always be the case. That will always be the case. Now, it's going to be more and more difficult to tell the difference, but I'm hopeful that at the end we will tell the difference. When you listen to Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, come on, but bots have come up with, AIs have come up with symphonies which are pretty good. It's not Beethoven, but I mean, it's pretty good. And some of my critics say, oh, well, all it's doing is combining different symphonies over the centuries and making its own. And I said, well, yeah, but don't humans do that also? I mean, that we use the past in order to create the future. So I'm hopeful that we'll always have that human aspect, which will be detectable by other humans and appreciated and valued more than what the AIs can do.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, Father Larrey, this has been a delightful conversation. I really appreciate you coming on with us and spending some time kind of working our way through some of these issues. Obviously, there's, as you said about Becky's 25-part question earlier, you could write doctoral dissertations.
Run it through AI. trying to help me.
Every one of these topics. So yeah, maybe there'll be a future conversation.
I tell you, I have a semester course, and every week we take a text and we deal with all these issues. So, you're invited to come along. Where are you guys physically?
We're in Phoenix, Arizona. Yep.
Oh, okay.
We live on the surface of the sun down here this time of year, as we like to say.
We're going through a heat stroke, and I have a friend who's from Arizona. He says, you guys have no idea what a heat stroke is.
Those Arizonans are always walking about preening on that point. Yeah. Oh, well, you think you know how hot it is.
He's like, it's 103 out, and he's like, oh, finally, it's comfortable.
You guys are cooling off. Yes, get a sweater.
Well, it's been a delightful conversation. I wish we had more time. These things are so important, and they're so vast that it's impossible to cover in a short amount of time. But hopefully we created some interest and we did address some issues about AI, and especially about the encyclical of Pope Leo.
Well, and as you've pointed out, this is we're at the very beginning, and things are constantly changing. So I think maybe we'll plan on teeing up another conversation somewhere down the road. I have no doubt AI will give us some things to talk about. So
every day it's changing. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, great. Thanks, Father, so much. Appreciate your time, and we'll catch up with you down the road.
Bye-bye.
God bless.
Hey, welcome back to Cradle.
Really excited.
Welcome back to Cradle and Convert. I just blew out my wife's eardrums because she had her headphones set to calm, Steve. Smooth jazz. She had her headphones set to National Public Radio,
right,
Steve.
Like it was a golf tournament, and then suddenly you just went, goal!
Suddenly I was enthusiastic, right? Yeah, yes. World Cup, goal! So that was a very interesting conversation. The historical thing, you forget sometimes that the concept of artificial intelligence has been around, I mean, kind of forever. It's always been sort of like a sci-fi concept. That would be an interest. I should have asked Father Larrey that question. It's like, at what point, because he's been tracking it for decades, at what point did it sort of legit flip from sort of like this sci-fi, ooh, what if someday, to, no, this is actually a thing that's happening. And as they said, like in the early going, it was disappointing because people had big expectations, and the tech just did not live up to it. So they were like, this actually stinks. This is useless. But now it's, it's about to rule the world.
So back in the day, there was Star Trek, right? And they talk to the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even this scene in, I'm going to kind of reveal my nerdiness a little bit here, but there's a scene in Star Trek 4.
We have a sound effects button, dear listener, and they're cheering for the Star Trek nerd.
It actually looks like a Star Trek console.
It does. Ooh.
Like
Make it so, number one. So it'll be funny because I don't know for sure. We just heard like the little applause sounder in our headphones. I don't know if that actually makes that in the recording. If it doesn't work, it look like a couple of complete freaking lunatics.
Like we don't already.
Which will only confirm what people have long suspected.
There's nothing
Listeners of the
there.
show are like, they really are absolutely certifiably insane. They just randomly both started laughing about nothing. Nothing happened, and they thought it was hilarious. Okay.
So it's Star Trek 4.
Star Trek 4.
Scotty, they go back in time.
Tell me more. Star Trek 4.
They go back in time.
You just put your finger in my mouth.
I'm sorry. They go back in time.
Okay.
And they are in the 80s or somewhere.
I'm sure they are. Yes.
And they, Scotty, you remember him. He sits down at a desk and there's the computer and he starts to talk into the mouse and he's talking to the computer. And then they say, just use the keyboard. And he's like, oh, the computer or the keyboard. How quaint. He does in the Scottish accent. So,
right.
All that to say, why do I know that? I don't know. But, I always thought, like in recent times, now that we have all of this voice activation, I'm like, it's like Star Trek. It's like what Scotty was doing,
It's about time we have like the calm logo thing.
It's coming. I think
it's like just tap it and like, hey, beam me up a sandwich.
only.
Yeah.
Okay, I think
Well,
we've used
technology,
enough of this time.
technology, great.
Used
So,
up our viewers' time.
I think we have to. So thanks. Hey, everybody. Good job. We appreciate you tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share. We are obviously trying to grow the channel and get the word out about the show. So your help in accomplishing that would be most appreciated. And in the meantime, thanks as always for being part of Cradle and Convert. Remember, the church has what the world needs. So learn your faith, live your faith, and share your faith. Till next time.
Make it so.
Number 1.